is Gina, and this is my little corner of YouTube where I talk to you about what I'm up to in my knitting. So I have a little bit different episode for you today. I have been thinking about making this one for a while and just haven't gotten around to it. But I am motivated to get these knits that I am about to talk to you. I'm trying to get them out of my life, whether that means giving them away, whether that means turning them into a cat bed or unraveling them. I am motivated, and so I figured I better make this video before I turn these back into scrap fabric. So yes, I have a whole pile of knits that I am not happy with for one reason or another. So basically this is going to be a whole episode of flops and fails. And yeah, I don't know. Hopefully somebody will find it interesting to see what a knitter of now 13 years or so. No, I guess 12 years. I started knitting in November of 2014. So yeah, going on 12 years. And so in that time I have created quite a few flops and failures. So yeah, that's what we're going to talk about today. So first up, we have actually two different knits that I'm going to show you, which are me attempting to make the same pattern multiple times. So this pattern is the Miette, which so it's a pattern by Andi Satterland. And I came across it first in the sewing world. So before I started knitting, I sewed, and this was back in the days of blogs, and some of the bloggers that I followed had migrated from sewing into knitting, and they were making like dresses and sweaters to go along with them, whole outfits, and it was very cute. Anyway, this was one of the patterns, Miette, that one of the bloggers that I followed did, I think, a sweater like knit along, make along thing for. So that was where I had originally come across it. And it was a free pattern at that time. I think Andi has now taken down all of her patterns from Ravelry, and I think you have to like buy them from her Patreon or something like that. Anyway, so I don't know that you can still get a hold of this unless you get it there. But at the time, in 2015, this was a free pattern. So this was my first attempt. This was, like I said, in 2015. This was made out of some kind of Cascade. I don't know what it is, because I don't think I've ever worked with it again since I made this. And basically I got all the way through this and tried it on, and it did not fit. I'm not going to try it on now because I'm definitely bigger than I was in 2015. So it's for sure not going to fit. But the big problem with this one was just I simply did not gauge swatch, and I paid the price. So this was, towards the beginning of my knitting journey, and I did not fully understand how important the whole gauge swatching thing was. So yeah, so this has been sitting there forever. I tried to give this, or I asked my sister if she would be interested in this, because I didn't even put buttons on it. I was like, I'll put buttons on it if you want it, and she didn't, and so I've never done anything with it, and I actually still have several skeins of this left, and so yeah, I just need to frog this and turn it back into hanks, and then I could use it for something else. It would be a pretty nice color on me. It's like a light, a little bit darker than a ballet pink, but a nice baby pink. Yeah, so that was Miette. And then let's see, what year was this? Later in 2015, I decided to take on the Miette again. And this is my Miette Take 2. And as I recall, this one did fit at the time. However, I made this one out of Knit Picks Shine, which is bamboo, maybe only bamboo, tinsel, something like that. It's a warmer weather appropriate knit, which would not be a bad thing actually for me to have a cardigan in that. But at that time I had no idea about knitting, like the properties of different knit fabrics, and didn't know that this would stretch. So I was significantly smaller at the time that I made this, so I'm sure that this will not fit me today. But yeah, but I think you can probably see the problem. So let me read my notes, because I went back and read my Ravelry project page on this to see what had gone wrong with this. So this time I cast on again, but this time when I made the whole thing, it was too big. Apparently I still didn't gauge swatch, or didn't gauge swatch well enough. So I frogged the whole thing and restarted it in 2016. So cast this thing on 3 times. And then, so I started it in 2016, apparently put it down, forgot about it, whatever, and pulled it out in 2018. So 3 years after originally starting it, decided I was going to try and finish it, and discovered that I think it was almost done at the time that I knitted it, but I knit 2 plain button bands rather than one with buttonholes and one with not. So I ripped that one out and re-knit it, and supposedly had it ready to go, but I think I came back to it later and was like, realized what I had done was a bad thing. So this is what I was referring to earlier. You could probably see, do you see, this is the button band that I re-knit, and I cast it off clearly using Jenny's surprisingly stretchy bind off. Can you see the bind off? See how wavy that thing is? And the other one is fine. It looks just fine. But this one looks terrible, and look how much lower that one's hanging without even stretching it out. So yeah, can you see that? It's so bad. So bad. So here's the second one that I put on, and I don't know if it's just that bind off. I could have picked up more stitches. Who knows what I was doing. But yeah, so this one has never been finished. It never had buttons put on. You know, it would probably be salvageable for me if I could still wear this size, which I cannot. It would be salvageable if that button band was re-knit, but at this point, I don't have any interest in this, so I really just need to frog this, although the yarn, I would say, looks not super great, even though it has never been worn. It's just been in my closet getting beat up for almost a decade now. So yeah. So at this time, I think I had probably, well, I don't know. I discovered Jenny's surprisingly stretchy bind off pretty early on because I made a lot of socks. So I knew it from sock knitting. But I apparently didn't think about the fact that that is not always the best application. You don't always want your edge to be really, really super stretchy. So anyway, so that is Miette, number 1 and number 2. And so I don't know, do I have to say that that pattern defeated me, that I knit it 3 times total and still didn't ever get a wearable product out of it? I don't know. I don't think it was the pattern's fault at all. I think that was just me being a baby knitter and not knowing what I was doing. So, okay, my next one, which this one's more, I would say not a total fail, just it's got problems and therefore it's been kind of a flop. So this is my flax, which I cast on in February of 2015 and then finished in October of 2015. So I completed this one a lot earlier than that 3rd version of the Miette. But this was not my, I think the Miette was my first adult garment, and this was my first finished adult garment. So this is Tin Can Knits Flax. And there's nothing terrible about it, but can you see here what I did? I did not read the pattern correctly, and when you are working the raglan, like, I think the first row that you knit, you do garter stitch all the way between the raglan markers. And then after that, it's just supposed to be like the center, like 10 stitches or something. I don't know. I don't know the number. I'm just making that up. It's supposed to be like the center 10, but I didn't pay attention to the pattern. And so I just thought, oh, we're knitting garter stitch all the way across the raglan. And so yeah, I have this whole garter sleeve up here. And then this is the point at which I realized, oh, I probably looked at the picture and was like, mine doesn't look like the picture. What's going on? And so then I just changed to doing the, just the center, however many stitches. And so mine looks a little bit weird. Now, I've got to say, I've never been crazy about the garter stitch part of that one, and like really that whole series, you know, that employs a lot of garter stitch. I just don't always like garter stitch, the way that it looks, mostly in garment applications is where I don't generally like it that much. So yeah, but it looks weird. Definitely a problem, but I don't wear this one very much. I completed it, but I didn't love it. And I can still wear it. Somebody told me that the flax has neck shaping. I did not make mine. So I don't know at the time that I was making it, I know they changed, edited the pattern and added like a light version that uses fingering and stuff. So it might have been in 2015 when I made this that it didn't have any shaping, that it was just truly a super simple pattern. Or perhaps I, as a baby knitter, had just opted to skip the optional short rows or something. And so because of that, because there's no neck shaping, like the neck comes up high, it bugs me when things rub my neck. So I don't love that, but it's just, a pretty shapeless sweater, and I don't love the garter ridges. So basically I have not worn this one very much at all. I have worn it around the house a little bit. But really at this point, I think I would be better served by just unraveling this and reclaiming the yarn. It was good in the moment for teaching me the basics of sweater construction in the round. I would definitely recommend this pattern and have done, for other people, but yeah, don't love that. Again, I would love to know if I chose to do no short rows or if the short row option didn't exist at the time. But I would count this as one of my flops. Next up, we have the Entomologist Sweater. And I knit this one from September to October 2018. And I do remember this was a test knit. And I'm sure I don't even need to put this one on for you to see what the problem is with it. For one thing, at this point, the yarn looks really terrible. This is made out of Knit Picks Gloss DK, which I do not love, because it starts looking, it's just not good for garments, in my opinion. Okay, look at this. Look at this. I think that the pattern had a pretty wide neck to start with, but obviously my yarn choice is playing into this. Gloss is silk and wool, but the silk content in this is definitely making it it has less recovery than a 100% wool, which is probably what the designer had called for. I'm sure that she called for a wool, and I was just like, I have a DK and it has wool in it. That will be perfect. It does have some really pretty elements. Like I love the little cabling lace detail there. But yeah, this is just a terrible yarn choice for the pattern, and yeah, it looks really bad. I haven't worn this in years outside of the house. I have worn it a little bit around the house, but nowadays I have several sweaters that I have made for myself just for the purpose of wearing around the house, you know, my sort of comfort knits. And so I haven't even worn this around the house in years, and really just need to turn this one into a cat bed or something. Look at how pilly it is. It looks gross. Yeah, super gross. So no point in reclaiming this yarn, which I don't love in the first place. So yeah, this one, definitely a fail. Again, my fault, not primarily, not the fault of the pattern. Although, like I said, I do think that the pattern had a pretty wide neck to start with. Okay, next up we have the Ferris wheel fade, which I did not write down what year I made this, but I do remember this was in the spring of COVID. So this had to be like 2020, you know, I probably made this in April. Because I just have strong COVID, being stuck at home with the kids, memories. And this one is no fault of the pattern. This was another test knit. This is just me not really understanding what was going to look good on me. This is a very oversized, boxy tee, and it was, this was still during the time when we were fading everything, and the bottom yarn is Knit Picks Hawthorne in the colorway Springwater, which I love. This is one of my favorite colorways of Hawthorne. The yarn at the top, did I write down what that was? It's Ancient Arts Fiber Crafts Reinvent, and it has some mohair to it, which gives it a pretty halo, but does make it a little bit scratchy. And this is a pretty gauzy tee, and it was one of those where there's just really no good time in my particular climate to be wearing a very warm tee that is a tee, right? Because if it's warm enough to be wearing short sleeves and gauzy fabric, then it's too hot for mohair. So yeah, this one's, again, no fault of the pattern or the designer. It was just not a good fit for me, I think. And then my yarn choice also was not great. But I was using up what I had on hand, and I thought these two colors worked together for the fade. So as you can see, oversized. It's finished with these rolled hems, which I'm not super crazy about. It feels like this one's done too tightly. Oh, I've tacked it there to try to make it stay still. That's what's going on there. Yeah. So like I said, you can see it's like really loose, oversized, but it's got mohair on it. And then also, you know, the part that's not mohair is still you know, pretty heavyweight fingering Peruvian Highland wool. So it's very warm. And if I was like up in the mountains of Colorado, which I did in fact wear this up there for a photo shoot after I had finished it, you know, it might work fine. But for where I am, where it is hot as Hades most of the summer, it's just not a good fit for me. So sadly, this one is a fail. I will be like, I need to put it on my list of things to do this summer to unravel this one. I'm not sure that I can salvage the mohair one, or the one that's got the mohair in it, but I should be able to salvage some of my Hawthorne. So this is the Ferris wheel fade. Okay, next up we have this lacy tee called Blume. And this is knit in, oh, I think I have this inside out. I do. Just a second. It'll probably look better right side out. There we go. that lace stretched enough to be able to see any of it? So this is a pattern by Bekah somebody. I can't remember her whole name at the moment. This was a test knit. She has a bunch of designs that I like. So I was excited to try this one because it was a, you know, meant to be more of a spring summery tee, and I used Knit Picks Lindy chain, which is a yarn that I do really like. I think the yarn was appropriate. My problem with this one is I think I selected the wrong size. At that time, I did not know about selecting for my size based on my upper bust. And my upper bust and my full bust are quite different. And so at this point, I know that I am much better off to choose according to my upper bust. And then just let there be some negative ease across my full bust. But at this time, I did not know this. So this one is, at least at the time, is probably less so now, was very oversized on me. Like it would fall off my shoulder. As you can see, the neck is pretty wide. So Lindy chain is linen, primarily. I think it's got some cotton in it too. It's in a chainette format, and it doesn't have a lot, it doesn't have recovery, right? It is linen, so it does stretch out, and so that might be contributing to it somewhat, but this was from the very beginning quite oversized on me, and really just the way it's made, it has to have something under it to be, you know, to be worn. So let me show you. See how deep that neck hole is on me. And I just, if I'm wearing a summer tee, I don't want to have to wear a camisole or a tank or anything underneath it. Due to my chest situation, like there's no way that I can wear one of those cute little bandeau type bras under something and still have like my, you know, midriff be cool and free. That's not gonna happen. And so this kind of thing is just not very practical for me. But I do love the yarn, and so I am planning to unravel this one now that I have shown it on here. Next up, we have a sweater pattern that I loved for a long time. Had it in my queue to make. I just had seen so many versions that I loved. And that is the Camaro by Tanis Lavely. So please forgive this. It has been sitting in the bottom of a basket and is extremely wrinkled. Oh, okay. So this is another one where, again, like I don't think I was choosing my size based on my upper bust. I think I chose based on my full bust, with the result that the neck was way too big. I think there also possibly might just be some like neck issues with this one. So I had so much extra that I ended up making like a little button to take up some of that extra space. Like I added a little buttonhole to this. And I will tell you, I distinctly remember struggling with this one so much because you cast on a lot of stitches in the round to start with. It's like almost like casting on for a hem, even though you're casting on for the top of the sweater, just because of the way that this is made. And I twisted that so many times. I twisted when I joined in the round so many times. And I remember even posting on Ravelry and being like, what am I doing? How does this keep happening? Because it was literally like 3 or 4 times in a row that I had done it. And I would, sometimes I would catch it immediately. Sometimes I would catch it after I was, an inch or 2 in, and I was just like, how do I keep making the same mistake? And so somebody told me, or probably multiple people on that thread told me, you just start it flat, knit back and forth, and then just go back and sew it up. But what I did, since I had started it flat and had this problem with it being way too big, was I just put a button on it. Use that, didn't sew it all the way up. So it's kind of like a baby, top, how you leave like a little flap to make it easier to get over their heads. Only in this case, it was not to make it easier to get over my head. It was also because it was just so big. So the neckline is one of the problems with this. I still think it's such a cute pattern though. It has these cute little side vents, which I really like. And yeah, it was just really fun to do this thing here in the middle. My issues with this, aside from the neckline, are that goodness, this has been in a basket and my cats have been laying in it and there are sticker burrs all over. Anyway, the other issue with this is that I use two different types of yarn. So these upper colors are Swish, Knit Pick Swish DK. This here is Gloss DK, which, as I have just said, I do not like. I don't like how it looks after a few wears. I also don't like that it's shiny. I'm not sure if the shininess is showing up on camera or not, but in person, this section, all of the gray, has a distinct shine to it, and then the swish does not. And I don't know that I even thought about that when I started. I was just like, DK. This color looks all right with these other colors. Let's do it. Because this was all stash yarn, and it ultimately did not work well. So let me try this one on for you, and we'll see how big that neck is. All right, so here we are. Now, of course, I would never wear this on top of another sweater, so this is probably keeping it from laying very well, but you can see how big that neckline is. Yeah. And at this point, it's pretty snug on me. It would not have been that snug when I made it. But yeah, so this is another one where I need to just unravel it because I don't think anybody's gonna want this as it is. I will unravel it and probably throw away that and maybe try to salvage my swish pieces up here. And I didn't say what year this is from, but probably, judging from where it falls in the rest of these, is probably like 2021, 22, somewhere in there. So sad about that one. Maybe someday I would go back and make that one again with more appropriate yarn choices. We'll see. Oh, here's another one. I didn't actually have this one on my list. I just saw it as I was going through my pile of unwanted, unloved knits. And this is called, I think, Stripes Gone Crazy. I have no idea who the designer was. The pattern, I think, is very cool. And I still stand by my color choices. However, this is knit in Knit Picks Capretta Superwash. And can you see the problem with it? It pills like nobody's business. Now, it has been in a basket getting crushed, but it has not been worn. Like, it's just been sitting in a basket. And these are not the cat burrs. These are just pills. This pills so horrifically. Every single time you wear it, you just have to plan to, you have to depill it, and then you'll have to depill it again as soon as you take it off if you want it to be ready for next time. Although you probably shouldn't do that because it will need to be depilled just from sitting in the closet. Like, it just pills so bad. It also, I don't know if this is going to show up, but it bled some of these neons, like right there. Can you see there's some streaks in the gray? So yeah, that was annoying. And then I'll show you. This was definitely a case of I used my full best to choose a size, and then the capretta also just stretches and doesn't have a ton of recovery. And so it's always like the neck has always been huge in it. Like, and whatever, you know, I have to wear a shirt underneath it, and whatever shirt I wear, like a lot of the shirt is showing. So, and it just kind of looks frumpy and oversized, which is a shame because it is really such a fun sweater. And I did discover that the capretta, there were mixed reviews on the capretta as to whether you could put it in the dryer or not, even though it's super washed. Like there were reports of some people putting it in and having it felt. And so I was scared to do that for a long time because I was like, I don't want to ruin my, you know, cashmere-ish sweater. And then I, at some point, was like, you know what, this thing looks so crappy anyway. It doesn't really matter if it felts. And so I put it in the dryer, and it did shrink down and recover a lot. So, yeah, so I don't know. I've probably worn it since I have last done that to it. But in my case, putting it in the dryer did help the shape of the thing. But, you know, there's just only so much the dryer can do when the whole thing is really just too big and a little bit of a mess. But I have no plans to unravel this one. It looks terrible, and basically I've just consigned it to being a house sweater. It is super soft, and it is very warm and very light. So those are all good things, and means that I will keep it around for that reason. Okay, next up we have the Ellery Cardigan, which is a pattern that I got on the Knit Picks website, and it's by designer Sierra Morningstar. I worked on this one from February to March 2022, and it is made out of Knit Picks Simply Wool, which is an Aran worsted weight. I'm not sure which one. Simply wool, like it is just 100% kind of unprocessed wool. And so I really enjoyed making this. I'm not really sure. I think, again, I chose the size of this one based on my upper bust, or sorry, my full bust. So I think it's big for me. However, part of the problem with this one is that it's just so long. And I think, I'm not sure, because who knows? I don't ever check my row gauge. I never go back and like check my gauge after the fact for any project. So it could have been that my row gauge was really off, like longer than it was supposed to be, or it could just be that this is a longer pattern. Like it could have been that it came out to the specified length, but it's so long on me and it looks dumpy. And I have just decided that this length just looks unflattering on me. So like I can't even show you, it's so long. It is probably 4 or 5 inches underneath the bottom of my butt back there. It's so like, it's long. And it probably did need to be this big to go around my hips, but I was not, you know, I didn't choose based on that. But it's a cute pattern. I will say the pockets are non-functional. They're like an inch long. I don't know what you can do with that. Except wish that you had actual functional pockets, kind of like those horrible pockets they put in women's pants. You can see that the yoke is, here's my armpit, there's the yoke, so that's too long. I have a feeling this was knit bottom up. It's been so long, I don't remember at this point. And when things are knit bottom up, it's just really hard for me to know how things are going, where I need to stop, all of that. So I have worn this one a few times just because it is very comfortable. However, it looks bad. And I've decided that these longer length cardigans they look good on other people, but they are not for me. They are just not flattering for me. So I need to swear them off. So yeah, so that's the Ellery cardigan, and I will be frogging that one to reclaim the yarn, which is very nice, as well as full of burrs brought in by the cats. Okay, next up we have the Avena by Jennifer Steingass. I think her designer name is like Knit Wool Love or something like that. Some combination of those. This is a gorgeous design. I remember watching this one as she was designing it, teasing it on Instagram, and I just thought it was so beautiful. I still think it's beautiful. I live right across from a wheat field. That's a big thing in my state, and I was like, oh, I want to make this one. I want to make it in wheat colors, even though, you know, these are not good colors for me, and super excited to cast this one on. I made it out of Flax Worsted Bear, which is, Flax is Knit Picks. It's one of their big sock lines where they do self-striping colors of it, and sometimes they will have Flax Worsted, which is the same self-striping situation, only on the same base but worsted weight, and it's really nice. And I got a bunch of the bear, not a bunch, I got a sweater's quantity of the bear when they had greatly reduced it when they were closing it out. So they don't always have, like, Flax only drops 1 to 2 times a year in the first place, and then they have only had the worsted a couple of times. So that's not a regular, doesn't make a regular occurrence. Okay, so can you see the problem with this one already? You can probably see part of the problem with it, and that is the neckline. I do think I made this one to pattern. At this time, I probably chose based on my full bust again, not my upper bust. And I also did not know at this time about the trick of stealing yarn from the back to the front to make circular yokes better. So a cheater full bust adjustment, if you've never heard of this, for those of us who need something extra because our chest measurements, our full bust is different enough from our upper bust, a quick and dirty cheater way to do a full bust adjustment on your circular yokes is to, when you go to separate the sleeves, move some of your back stitches to the front. So basically you just move your sleeve stitches back from where the pattern tells you to, and you will want to take your measurements and everything in order to do that correctly, so that you don't end up with too few stitches in the back, because you need to be able to move your arms, but that helps. It's just a really quick and easy way to move things around so that you have extra space in the front where you need it. This one is looking even more terrible than it does in real life because I've got the wool sweater underneath it. But you can see the yoke depth is long, the neck is quite wide, and then in order to try to make this look better, I put in waist shaping. And as you can see, I went too far. As it is, probably, I'm sure I've got negative ease here in down in this area, and I don't need that much waist shaping. Again, like, I have gained weight since I made this, so my body is just bigger, but even at the time it was really too small, or it was more waist shaping than I needed. It was exaggerated. Also, the sleeves on this are skin tight. That could be the pattern. Like, I do have larger arms, so, you know, it's not uncommon for sleeves to be too tight for me, like for me to want to size those up. But it could also be that I knit that my gauge was tighter, because I definitely didn't know at that time that when you're knitting in a smaller circumference like this, sometimes your gauge gets tighter. And so it can be a good idea to size up your needles when you go to knitting your sleeves in the round. But yeah, look at that. It looks really bad. So even though this is such a visually striking pattern, I definitely need to rip it out. I have not worn it probably in a couple of years. Really only wore it a few times, because even when it fit better, it was still the arms were uncomfortably tight. It was still getting, you know, definitely too tight down here. So yeah, this is one where my modifications, attempting to try to make things fit better, backfired and made it sort of less wearable ultimately. So lesson learned. All right, moving forward. Next up, we have one that really breaks my heart because I think this is such a beautiful pattern, and I will remake this one. That's what needs to happen with this one. But that is my Summer Sorrel by Woolen Pine Designs. So I made this one in June 2023. This was my first Woolen Pine Designs pattern. It has this really beautiful dip stitch, knit on reverse stockinette. And I think that I used Knit Picks Hawthorne fingering weight in this, and I think this colorway is Ashland, and I think it's gorgeous. This is, yeah, one of my favorites, and I think it looks really good in the reverse stockinette. I probably knitted this helically in order to keep the pooling to a minimum, and I think it looks just great. And I love the way that the dip stitches look on the tonal yarn. Okay, so I think I'm gonna have to take my sweater that I am wearing off in order to show you this one. So here it is on. Again, I'm a different size now than I probably was at the time that I knit this, so you know, you'll have to imagine what this might have looked like at the time that it fitted better. You can see that the neckline is pretty wide. I feel like I would not have made any changes to the neckline. I do not think. I would not have modified that. But the front is not really where the issue is with this one. Can you see that? Huge back, just, there's like all of this fabric back there. I don't know what's happening, because it's almost like negative ease, like it's sucking in the front and then pooching horribly in the back. I do not know what's causing that. Okay, I just turned it around so that we could see what it looks like the other direction. So you can see there's something going on. This is where the horrible pooches were in the back. And now I've still got a bunch of extra fabric back there. But it looks even worse, right? If I turn it around. I think there is some sort of short row situation worked underneath the dip stitches in the back, because you just start the pattern right at the neckline. There's no opportunity to work the short rows up here, so they're worked down below it. But yeah, it creates this pooching situation. And I feel like other people have not reported this problem. I don't know. I need to go back and look, because I have not investigated this thoroughly. Definitely not since I initially did it. When I first made it, I was just so thrilled with it because I thought the dip stitches were so pretty. And then I remember pulling it out of my closet like the next year to wear it and putting it on and looking in the mirror and going, that looks terrible. Like, what in the world? And I didn't remember that it had looked like that. So I don't know. I still, like I said, I want to remake this one because I do love the dip stitches. But I don't know what's going on with those short rows. I probably wouldn't work those at all at this point because, like, this is such a deep neck. We don't need short rows, and in fact I need the short rows in the front in order for my shirts to hang level from front to back. So I might work myself some short rows, although actually I probably wouldn't even do that. I would probably just skip the short rows completely and do the trick of stealing stitches from the back and moving those front so that my front would be a little bit bigger, would be wider than the back side. And that might fix the problem by just eliminating those short rows altogether. But such a shame. This is such a beautiful pattern, I think. Right. And last we have the Neon Nectar, which is from August to September of 2023. There's nothing wrong with this one per se. Certainly the pattern is totally fine. I just don't love this one. So I think the story with this one is that maybe Will and Pine like reached out to me directly and asked me if I would be interested in test knitting this one, and I was, you know, flattered, of course, that they would ask. And at that time, I think all we could really see were the little slip stitch design right here, and I also just didn't know my preferences all that well at that point. And yeah, so anyway, so I agreed to do this test knit. We had a discount to order yarn from, this is Spun Right Round. Don't remember what the base is called. It's a DK weight though, and I remember mine was, this colorway is called Careless Whispers, which is very beautiful. I think the yarn is gorgeous. But the problem is this one is just, it's a drop shoulder, and I really just don't care for the way drop shoulders look on me. Maybe I'll move my chair back so you can see, but I just feel like I look like a football player when I wear drop shoulders. And it seems like at the current moment, drop shoulders are very in style, and I will be glad when they go out of style. With drop shoulders, you have to wear them. You have to wear oversized, which I don't like oversized on me. I would prefer that something be, you know, more form-fitting than just big and boxy. And that is what this one is. I might not have chosen enough ease, although, you know, like here's my body, here's this, but there's not a ton of ease. And then it cinches in, you know, with the ribbing, which is fine. Like there's nothing wrong with that, but this really bothers me as well. So this is hand dyed, you know, variegated yarn, and this was designed intentionally like for that yarn. The slip stitches I think do look really pretty in the variegated hand dyed, and we were instructed to use helical knitting. I don't know, something. We used a technique to alternate skeins because, you know, there's definitely the potential for pooling, and everything was going along really well until I guess just the change in gauge down here in the hem caused this drastic pooling. And I think it probably looks worse on camera than it does in person, but it does still exist in person, and it bothers me. So, and to the point where I've thought about, like, should I go back and re-knit that? I do have another ball of this yarn that was left at the end, although at this point, I will say this colorway has faded. Like my unused skein is quite a bit more vibrant than this is after just a few washes. So like this color has washed out a lot. But yeah, then I'm like, why would I reknit it? I like just don't even like it that much. So I think this is one where I really just need to reclaim the yarn and use use the yarn in an application where there would be a solid there to break it up, where I wouldn't have to worry as much about the pooling situation, because it is really beautiful. Also, this is another one where the sleeves are quite tight. They're not bad up at the top, but they like just taper, and like I'm just poured in there, and I just from a sensory perspective, I do not like that sensation of the tight sleeves, especially if they're not, I don't know. I wouldn't like the tightness anywhere, but it's weird when I just really feel the tightness down there. Yeah, so did I say this is Neon Nectar? And again, like there's absolutely nothing wrong with the pattern. I think it's just not a pattern that's suited to my body shape. And then we also got the pooling issue going on. And so I just need to unravel it and make something that I will love with it. Yeah, so that's actually the end of my giant stack of flops and fails. Actually, no, it's not. Hold on. Okay, so one more. This one is extremely recent. I just talked about it in my last regular podcast episode, and this is the Alchemist vest, or Alchemist Slipover, sorry, by Wool and Pine Designs. Sorry, Wool and Pine Designs, really featuring a lot here at the end. That's probably just because I've knitted a lot of their stuff the last few years. I've done a lot of test knitting for them. And so I have a lot of both the patterns that I've test knit and then the patterns that I have received as, you know, a thank you for test knitting. And yeah, so I have just knit a lot of their stuff. And this is another one that there's absolutely nothing wrong with the pattern. I think the pattern's actually really fun. I love the tassels. It just does not work on my body type. It just hangs and looks bad. Sorry, I have a kitty cat down here who's being a bad boy. He's trying to get in the bathroom. This is Jonesy. Oh, yeah, you're mean. You're a mean boy. You're a mean boy. I'll let you down. Okay. Jonesy is not a lap kitty. Not for me. Anyway, he does not love me very much. Okay, so what was I saying? Yeah, nothing at all wrong with this. It has some really beautiful details. I love the V-neck. The tassels are really cute. It just looks so bad. So I'll put B-roll picture up there so that you can see that. But if you want to hear me talk about it more in depth, you can go back and watch my last video where I went into this. It's just, like I said, totally fine pattern. The yarn is really nice. It's just not good for me. Now it's covered with Jonesy hair. And yeah, so I will be reclaiming the yarn from this one and hopefully making something that I will love. Like I still think that this would be a really cute vest. I just need to make one with sides so that it will pull in and not just make me look huge and like a tent in the front. So okay, so I think that is everything at this point. So lessons that I've learned, like one of the biggest ones is I need to knit for my shape. And that sometimes means, making modifications. It means for sure choosing according to my upper bust rather than my full bust. It means making adjustments so that when I choose that smaller size, that it fits me. There's enough length in the front, enough stitches. And it also means just being thoughtful about the patterns and one, not getting sucked into a pattern just, you know, because it's a pattern test, choosing something that really fits with my style, fits with my body shape. Let's see, what else? Yeah, you know, and thinking back about the Ellery cardigan, the really long brown cardigan, like that one, again, I like how that looks on other people, but it doesn't look good on me. And I just need to accept that if I don't feel like I look good in something, like I'm not gonna wanna wear it. And so it's not worth putting all that time and effort into. I actually had a long hip length or even longer cardigan on my knitting bingo that I made for myself this year. It's a pattern that I just think is super pretty. I'll put a picture of it up here. It's called like Twisted Sister, I think. And I actually had been accumulating yarn and was ready to make it this year. Like I said, I put it on my bingo knitting card, and after making Andrea Mowry's Spark, and after seeing and not liking how it looked on me, after making the Ellery Cardigan and not liking how it looked on me, I decided, you know what, I need to just admire that pattern, appreciate it, and let it be for somebody else, because I can totally see, you know, it's the same kind of situation. It's a long cardigan. I think it has ties on it, but like it's still going to be long. It's still going to be hitting me kind of at my widest point on my hips, and I'm not going to like how I look in that one. And so, yeah, I just need to be wistful and a little sad about that pattern, that I just don't want to put the time and effort into that when I'm not going to feel good actually wearing it. So I'm swearing it off. I'm saying it on here, and I just need to replace that on my bingo card with something else. And then another big lesson I think I can learn from all of this as well. Another lesson is gauge swatching. I did figure that out at some point. But also yarn choice is really important. When a designer calls for 100% wool, like there's a reason for it. And I really need to think carefully about whether whatever I'm proposing substituting is really going to be a true substitute for it. Don't just use yarns because they're in your stash. Not that I'm against knitting from stash. I 100% will continue to knit from stash, but I just need to be really thoughtful about it. Just because it's the same weight doesn't mean that it's going to work for the pattern. And then also, you know, I just have enough I have enough pieces that I've worked at this point to know that Knit Picks shiny yarn, so shine and gloss, are probably not for me. Like there's just something about those shiny yarns that I tend not to like, and also yarns that are delicate I need to not use for garments, because the pilling really bothers me. It makes me frustrated and kind of angry at my knits, and there's no sense in putting myself through that. So yeah, I should be more thoughtful about that and not just use it because it's in my stash. Yeah, so those are some lessons. Hopefully they might be helpful to somebody else, but I've made a lot of other things that I have been super happy with, including years ago, that I still continue to wear. So maybe sometime I'll make like all-time favorites or something like that. But yeah, I've definitely had some flops and failures over the year. So maybe that will bring somebody else a little bit of, you know, feeling like they are not alone in having a few of those, or maybe my realizations can be helpful to you as well. So I will talk to you guys next time. I hope that you knit something that is bringing you joy. Bye.